Hello guys, today we're transforming this t-shirt into a beautiful Ankara dress. My name is Jordan from Negestyle. Today is the part 2 of my t-shirt transformation. Remember the part 1, I did the sleeves. The puff sleeves you can see. And I promise you for a part 2, that will be the complete tune-up of the t-shirt. So today I'm working with the bottom of the t-shirt. As you can see, it had like an opening. I open it out. I'm about to stitch this and close it. So this is what I did. I cut it out. I'm just gonna explain how I cut it out. This measurements down here at the bottom of the t-shirt, I had to stretch it out a little bit because you know it's a stretch fabric and I want it to fit around the hips when I wear the complete dress after I finish transforming my t-shirt into a dress. So I drag this like this, like I pull a little bit because it's stretchy. Right here. When I stretch out the bottom of my t-shirt, this is the measurement right here, and I use a lining. This is my lining inside under to extend my t-shirt into a dress. So that measurement divided by 2 placed on fold, this is it right here. I did some notches here, and I had to like give it that little flare. As you can see, I gave it a little flare. And the length of this lining, 24 centimeters. But listen guys, it depends on how long you want your dress to be. This is the measurement I choose for the length of the dress or t-shirt that I'm going to transform into a dress. This is the length, the length I want it to be. It depends on you. You can make it shorter. If you want it shorter, you can make it longer if you want it longer. So but this is the measurement I choose for the length of the dress you're going to see at the end of the video. So I choose 24 here. Remember, this is stretching out the bottom of my t-shirt. The measurement after I stretch it out a little bit, divided by 2, place on fold, notches at the bottom, notches. So now at the bottom of the t-shirt, this is the gathers. To obtain my gathers, I have two of them. One is longer than the other, but they are the same length, but one is longer than the other. One is 6 centimeters longer than the other. How did I obtain these gathers? This gathers, as you can see, is really wide, like it's wide. This is the gathers placed folded in 4 notches everywhere to mark the corners, and these are all the smaller ones. How did I obtain this? This is how I obtained this. To obtain the gathers that I'm going to add at the bottom of the t-shirt to turn into a dress, this measurement of the t-shirt right here at the edge of the t-shirt, remember the measurement I stretched out to cut my lining? This measurement, after I stretch it out, I use a measurement. I either do it times 2 or times 3 or times 2.5. So it depends on you. However you want the gathers to be. If you want less gathers, you can make it times 1.5. Like this length divided by 2. So the division after you divide it by 2, that's what you're gonna add to this to make your gathers. But I did the length, the width, excuse me, this width times 2. That's what I did to obtain my 2 pieces for my gathers. These 2 pieces you can see, one longer than the other, times 2. My gathers are times 2 for under the t-shirt. So I'm gonna go straight to sewing the lining and the 2 bands gathers under my t-shirt. So keep watching and see what gives. Keep watching and let's see the end of this beautiful t-shirt transformation. It's time to start my sewing. The first thing I'm doing, I'm working on my gathers. I'm going to sew the sides of my gathers, both pieces. sewing both sides of the gathers, right side against right side, and I'm gonna stitch it right down. I'll do the same thing to both pieces. Je ferai la même chose sur les mêmes pièces, les deux pièces de France, les deux pièces en paille. Je couds les deux côtés, bon côté contre bon côté. The next thing I'm doing is the gathers. I'm going to stitch the gather stitches. That's loose and long stitches for the gathers. I'm gonna do 2 stitches. I'll do the same on both gather pieces, on the same African print pieces that I'm using as my gathers. Je vais maintenant faire mes franges. Je vais coudre 2 lignes de franges sur les 2 tissus, 2 lignes de franges pour pouvoir tirer mes franges. Next step is the lining. I'm gonna stitch the sides of the lining. Right side against right side. Or the lining, the cotton lining don't really have a good or bad side. So I'm just gonna sew the 2 sides together of my lining. Sew the lining and I flip it over to the right side, and I'm gonna stitch the bottom. I'm just gonna fold the bottom of my gather pieces. I'm gonna fold on the bottom of both pieces to stitch the bottom of the gathered pieces to make a good finish at the bottom of it. Je vais plier en bas de les 2 pièces de France, enrouler à la machine. C'est ce que je suis en train de faire. As I was saying in French, I'm going to hem the bottom on the machine of both gathered pieces. Alright, after I stitch the lining together, I fold the bottom of my gather pieces. I pull the garters together, and I'm ready to attach the bottom part to my t-shirt. First thing, I'm going to take the shorter piece. Remember when I was cutting the pieces, there's one that was shorter, the one that was like 6 centimeters shorter than the other one, the African print pieces. I'm going to take that pieces and attach it to the bottom of my lining. Remember, my lining has a bottom. The bottom of my lining is where the flare is
Remember I showed you how I added a little flare when I was cutting it. The flare at the bottom, that's where the bottom part of my lining is. The bottom of my lining is. And it's at that bottom of the lining that I'm adding the print, the shorter gather piece, the shorter one, the shorter piece. I'm gonna spin it together right side against right side. As you can see what I did at the end, the sewing. I opened up the sewing for the print, I pin it up right side against right side, and I'm about to stitch it. As I stitch, this is a very delicate thing. You have to go slowly, adjusting your gathers at the bottom before you place the lining as you go. Don't rush over it unless you want to hand hem it first before you sew it. But I advise you to take your time, adjust the gathers as you stitch them together to make sure you have even and beautiful gathers. Voila, that's how it looked like after I stitched it together at the bottom. I added a shorter piece of the African print to the bottom of my lining. So here's the other piece. The longer piece is not bigger because they are the same size. The longer one, the one that's 6 centimeters longer than the other one, that's what I'm going to attach at the top to the t-shirt. So this piece I pin it differently. I'm putting right side, or the right side, I'm putting them together. I'm pinning it together. That is that the wrong side of the print will be facing the right side of the lining. As you can see, it's an easy step. If you look, you're going to understand what I'm doing. So I'm going to pin both sides together. Again, while stitching it, you have to adjust your gathers as you go. This step you have to do it slowly. Don't rush it while you're sewing. Slowly adjusting your gathers and stitching. So I'm pinning both sides together. Maintenant j'attache la plus longue bande à ma doublure. La plus longue bande, c'est celle qui était 6 cm plus longue que l'autre. Je l'attache du même côté avec ma doublure, comme tu peux voir sur la vidéo. J'épingle tous les côtés ensemble et en cousant, il faut faire très attention, aller doucement, ajuster mes fronces en cousant. So now I'm attaching it, I'm at the last step, attaching it to the t-shirt. I'll flip my lining and print that I pinned together earlier. I'm going to flip it on the wrong side so I can be able to put the right side against the right side to the t-shirt. I'm putting the t-shirt inside. As you can see, I put my t-shirt inside the pieces in order to pin the right side against right side. Just watch, you're going to understand. You can understand more about looking than me talking. I don't know exactly how to put the words, but if you watch the video, you're going to understand what I'm doing. I put the right side of the print against the right side on my t-shirt, and then the lining follows inside. I'm going to put it together, and I'm going to sandwich. I'm sandwiching the print inside the t-shirt and the lining. And while I'm sewing, I have to make sure I adjust my gathers well before I stitch. Comme je disais en anglais, j'ai sandwich le pain, le tissu pain entre mon t-shirt et ma doublure. Et c'est très délicat et je dois faire attention en cousant. Je dois m'arrêter pour m'ajuster mes fronces qui sont sur le pain entre le t-shirt et la doublure en cousant doucement. D'autres vont prendre le temps pour épingler ou bien faire une couture à la main, mais tu peux le faire directement sur la machine, doucement et calmement. this is the last step of the sewing. Then I'm going to iron it. And voilà, c'est la dernière étape ici. Après avoir cousu, je vais repasser, couper tous les petits fils qui pendent, cutting all the hanging threads, iron, and I'm ready to try my outfit. Thank you guys for watching and I hope you learned something today. Merci d'avoir regardé jusqu'à la fin et j'espère que vous avez appris quelque chose. À la prochaine. See you next time.